In today's news, government is proposing to amend the Elections Act to allow for an indefinite period for changes made on the voters' provisional list.
And the food security and nutrition is the aim of the 7th District Garden Program.
And the H. Laverty Stout Community College to host first Alumni Association meeting for 2022 tomorrow, Thursday, virtually.
Residents have complained, and finally waste management to be addressed through legislation. Premier Fahie also congratulates the Barbados PM for recent elections victory. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Welcome everyone. It's Wednesday, January 26, 2022. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant. We are coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. So much to get into today, but before we get into our headlines, the trial date for the trio has been set who are accused of assisting with 23 illegal immigrants into the Virgin Islands, and new waste management laws are coming to reduce litter. Now this of course has been a conversation for a long time. In addition to that, the COI's short-term time frame has been designed to overwhelm the system, says at-large representative the Honorable Carvin Malone, and legislators are seriously concerned about the limited police on sister islands. That is directly from Flax Charles. In addition to that, we get into a very important story where Florida Senate committee moves to advance the MIA law for tenant safety.
And viewers, we start today's newscast on a recent decision made by the Cabinet of the Virgin Islands, where we would have seen the government of the Virgin Islands ultimately proposing to make several changes to the Elections Act 1994, which will remove the restrictions periods and consolidate the forms needed to make adjustments to personal information on the voters' provisional list. But this is according to a recent post-cabinet decision statement dated December 31st, which outlined the proposed changes to be made to the legislation. Viewers, take a look at this report. The statement said that the Cabinet, and I quote, agreed to amend sections 10.2, 19.1 and Schedule 2 Form Number 3 of the Elections Act 1994 to make the period which currently restricts voters to address omissions, name change, etc. to be a continuous one. It added that the Cabinet also approved the consolidation of Form Numbers 1, 3, 7 and 8 listed in Schedule 2 of the Elections Act to include the collection of particulars of voters, as well as to facilitate changes of voters' residence in the same electoral district to be captured in the new Virgin Islands voter registration form, end quote. Put this into perspective, sections 10.2 and 19.1 of the Elections Act allows members of the public to make changes to their name, address or occupations once it has been wrongly stated in the provisional list, where the changes ordinarily are only allowed to be made within a 10-day period following the publication of that said provisional list. Or the proposed amendments would therefore allow for changes to be made for an unspecified period of time up until the day of the elections. 284 News also reached out to the Supervisor of Elections, Mrs. Sherry Griffin, who explained the proposed changes. She said they will aim to improve the administrative processes relating to voters' registration.
The Office of the Supervisor of Election would normally receive very little pre-submission. However, what you would note would be on election day, a prospective voter might appear with their government-issued ID that bears a different surname to the name that is listed on the official list of voters. The presiding officer would then have to administer an oath, which essentially would be done for the prospective voter to indicate that they are the person that is referenced on the official list of voters. So that information, that form, that oath that's administered would thereby then pave the way for the presiding officer to allow them to cast their ballot. However, although that oath was administered on election day, the information that in terms of the identification, there is no collection of data on that day that will then be utilized to update the official electoral register. So with this new amendment, what is intended or what is envisioned to happen is that there can be an encouragement of persons who fall within that category where they need to update their names or occupations in the electoral register. The period is now expanded to any period before the publication of the preliminary list, and not just that narrow window of the 10-day period.
Well, Griffin also spoke on the benefits of consolidating the 4 forms.
An individual would have to ascertain which form was the form required to make the relevant application to their specific circumstances. And as I said previously, there were other information that needed to be captured that was not included on those existing forms. So in revising or consolidating all those forms, it allowed for one form to be able to capture the data that was being requested on those individual forms, and also other fields that were not previously captured in one. So it allows for an improvement in the efficiency in streamlining the process of applying and completing several forms.
The Cabinet also decided that the Office of the Deputy Governor provide drafting instructions to the Attorney General to make the necessary amendments to the legislation. Once those amendments have been made, it is expected that the drafted legislation will be brought before the House of Assembly to be read, debated, and passed. Well, viewers, interesting developments coming out of that recent Cabinet decision. Obviously, Ron, what someone says, elections are in the air.
Absolutely. The elections are definitely in the air, not only in the Virgin Islands, the BVI, but we know that elections are constitutionally supposed to be held in the U.S. Virgin Islands by November of this year. And one of the things that we have to holistically look at, Kamal, is the relationship between the two. While one is a U.S. territory and we are British overseas territory, the two work in tandem because Virgin Islanders have migrated to St. Thomas for many years, and when election time comes, they simply catch the boat and come over. And I think this is a prime example as it pertains to the reshifting of allowing persons to switch districts. I think it will definitely be a pause for the election and definitely shift the narrative as to where and when persons are allowed to vote. If you've been living in a district for the past, I'd say 10 to 15 years or longer, and you all of a sudden just decide you want to switch and vote in another district, I think we could see a lot of that, and I think we have to strategically look at those ramifications.
Well, yes, that is actually one argument, but also for some too, when it comes to that particular decision to be made, it's actually just a proposal. But in speaking to Ms. Griffin, supervisor of elections, what she did say is that ultimately over the last few years there have been some issues regarding persons who would have missed the 10-day period deadline that is usually allotted for those persons who have, well, according to the legislation, once the provisional list has been issued, persons have 10 days prior to that, 10 days following that date to then make the necessary adjustments and changes. And what she said was ultimately a lot of persons usually do not come forward and they wait basically until the day of elections then to then have another procedure done, which is more timely, you know, more time consuming, and in terms of that particular action. So what she's saying that this will help to fast track the process and update the necessary information for those persons on the provisional list. But also, as you did mention, you know, a lot of persons will be using the opportunity to capitalize on this latest development, you know, with no time period in play. You know, a person can basically make a change at any given moment. At the
last moment. But in addition to that, one of the things that we've rallied for and really had a conversation amongst residents across the Virgin Islands is, do you live where you vote? And that is not always the case. In the Virgin Islands, we have 9 districts. Of course, everyone votes for an at-large representative, but we have many persons who may reside in a district where they do not actually vote, or they may be born and raised in a district or registered in a district, but they do not reside. So I think holistically, instead of the elections office confining to residents and their inaccuracies of meeting deadlines, residents should be confining to the elections office and the legislation, not vice versa.
I wonder what that process is like when you come and make a request for change. Do you have to bring proof of a new address? That's actually interesting to find out.
Perhaps we should consider, viewers, continuing on. Fresh organic food is being produced in District 7 as a direct result, they say, of the success of the District 7 Garden Program. Now, the program, which was launched last May, is well underway with 13 participants growing various quick crops under the local agriculture expert and entrepreneur, Mrs. Arona Foy-Forbes. Now, commenting on the progress made with the program, Deputy Premier and representative for the 7th Electoral District, Dr. the Honorable Natalia D. Whitley said, and I quote, "I am delighted to see not only the crops growing, but also excited to know that it is a direct result of the learning taking place. It is proof that participants are not only learning theory, but they are actually putting into practice the agricultural principles being taught." Now, the overarching vision of the program is, of course, to increase and improve food security, entrepreneurship, volunteerism, and the physical and mental well-being of under-resourced residents in District 7. Now, viewers, one of the major goals of this program is, they say, to diversify the economic opportunities for residents, and to that end, the Honorable Dr. Wheatley further commented, and I quote, "Program participants are also learning the business side of the agriculture as they prepare their crops for a market day later this year." Now, we don't know, Kamal, when that market day is going to actually happen. What we do know is that the market in the Road Town area perhaps is under construction, and we don't know of one in the 7th and 8th district. But in addition to that, the agriculture minister said this particular aspect of the program will provide both economic and food security to participants. Now, residents are asking, how exactly will that happen? Program facilitator Mrs. Arona Foy-Forbes said the apprentices officially started in November and they hit the ground running. She expressed that she is looking forward to seeing even more great progress on the current crops. These crops include watermelons, corn, tomatoes, okras, squash, peppers, and eggplants. She said the participants are learning much about the process of gardening in addition to planting different funguses and viruses. Mrs. Foy also added that they are also learning how to overcome gardening challenges, more specifically the fowls that have been picking out the seedlings and the, of course, mildew on some of the plants. Kamal, planting in agriculture has been a conversation for a very long time. The Honorable Minister, Deputy Premier of the Virgin Islands, Dr. the Honorable Natalia Whitley, is essentially starting in his district. He's starting at home, and he's trying to, I guess, assume the position of making sure that residents, at least within that area, are having an understanding of farming and gardening. I know one of the things that we have long done in the Virgin Islands, and I grew up at the Arthur Scarlett Primary School, having gardening programs within the primary schools. But I think, like what he's trying to accomplish, this should wholeheartedly be stretched across the Virgin Islands. If we're seriously looking at farming, if we're seriously looking at the development of crops, I think while this program is warranted, while it is absolutely needed, I think we have to look holistically and a bit broader.
I totally understand. I totally agree with your point of view. But as the minister, the deputy premier, and he's also the minister responsible for agriculture. I guess he's basically, showing and telling. Start here in the District 7, and then the other districts would see, and then they would try to obviously emulate what they would have seen in District 7. going forward.
That's a good analogy. But one of the things that I also want to remember is that during the lockdowns, during the height of COVID-19, many persons started. Those persons who may not have been backyard farmers, those persons who were not into farming at all, they actually used that opportunity to start their backyard farming. And I do think that it is essential that we start at home. And then we start within our communities, but I do wish that all districts from 1 to 9 could emulate what the Honorable Natalia Wheatley is trying to accomplish within his district.
Indeed. Well, viewers, up next, the H. Lavity Stout Community College to host first Alumni Association meeting for 2022 tomorrow, Thursday, virtually. And waste management to be addressed through legislation. But these and more stories after a word from our sponsors.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a brand new season of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and, bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. This season, I'm taking you on an entirely different journey, from chefs to dancers, philanthropists, communications specialists, and much more. I'm heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Bojangara, Justin Lake, not forgetting Anigata. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing, and I'm so proud. Get ready to reason, reflect, and redirect. We are the movers and shakers of this generation, and we ain't afraid to show it. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 3 by yours truly, Ron Grant, raising a generation of greatness.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, the H. Lavity Stout Community College will be hosting its first Alumni Association meeting this year, 2022, virtually at around 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. Well, this was confirmed in a media release from the college, which said that the virtual meeting will be open to all graduates and former students of the institution via the Zoom software. Well, Director of Institutional Advancement, Ms. Yvonne Crabb, said that the HLSCC's Alumni Association exists to support the college's mission and goals and strengthen the ties between its members, the community, and the college. Well, she said, and I quote, "Well, the college is very committed to and excited about engaging its alumni in a meaningful way through the Alumni Association. The alumni are a very important part of the HLSCC family, and we want to hear from them, and we are very interested in where they are, how they are doing, and how they can help to develop the ethos on and fabric of HLSCC for generations to come." According to HLSCC, the Alumni Association acts as the medium to keep past students connected to the college and also to provide a number of other opportunities for members and students. But these include supporting students through scholarship programs and networking opportunities, encouraging alumni to contribute their time, talents, and financial support to HLSCC, among many other things. But although also through the Alumni Association, members will be provided with many other opportunities for professional association, career development, leadership, and fellowship among alumni. But they also receive special discounts through the college's Alumni Discount Program. For persons interested in joining the meeting can do so using the Zoom meeting ID 928-8240-2341 and password alumni.
Now, viewers, many residents across the Virgin Islands have complained about the level of inaccuracies as it pertains to waste management in the Virgin Islands. As you traverse through the territory, you definitely see wholeheartedly how waste management is not to the best of our advantage. In that realm, the government of the Virgin Islands is determined, they say, to enact pieces of legislation that will holistically change the way the waste is treated in the territory of the Virgin Islands. Now, His Excellency, the Governor, Mr. John J. Ranking of the Virgin Islands CMG, during his speech from the throne on January 18th, stated essentially that the government was working towards the waste management bill and the plastic litter reduction and container deposit bills. Now, the governor, in his address under the theme positioning the Virgin Islands through legislation to continue improving the standard of living for our people forward, strengthening the legal framework for sustainable management and household waste, industrial waste, construction and demolition waste, and hazard waste to protect health and the environment while improving the aesthetics of the Virgin Islands. Now, Governor said, and I quote, "The plastic litter reduction and container deposit bill will be introduced to reduce the use of single-use plastics, promote the use of environmentally friendly alternatives through economic incentives, reduce beverage container litter along roadsides, guts, coastal and marine areas, and on other public or private properties, and also to encourage recycling." Governor Ranking added, "The plastic litter reduction and container deposit bill will prohibit the importation, manufacture, sale, and distribution of food and beverage service ware made of non-compostable plastic, as well as single-use disposable plastic bags that are biodegradable." Now, the bill will also grant exemption from import duty on all disposable plastic bags and food and beverage serviceware made of biodegradable or other compostable material. It will also establish a recycling fund for collection and distribution for the proceeds of a levy on a prescribed items. Now, the throne speech really is said to be aligned with the direction and goals of the government's 2020 budget under the theme strategically positioning new industries while with sustainability and innovation, continuing to improve the standard of living with focus on education, small business, healthcare, and technology. Now, Kamal, there's much to be said about this. This is not the first time that waste management and how we dispose of our trash in the Virgin Islands has been a conversation. Legislation is one thing, but I do believe that holistically it takes an asserted effort for laws to be enforced. We have continuously dealt with the problem of inaccurate disposal of trash across the territory, and it does not take a holistic approach to really see that. You just have to drive through the territory from East End to West End, Vojingara to Anigara. The trash and the way people dispose of it is not the way it's supposed to. So the question is, as a resident, as a voting resident, is how do we really stick to these laws? I applaud the government in really putting this into perspective, but I holistically want us to be able to really stick to this. And as a resident as well, I would even employ our territory, the members who live and reside here, to take absolute pride in your territory. I don't understand, as a resident, how you could feel comfortable just driving through, throwing trash, or perhaps I see people putting trash on their the top of their vehicles, and perhaps for whatever reason it may fall off. Get out of your car and take it up. That, I think it's a individual responsibility that we have to take. While we're thankful for the legislation and the government putting measures in place, we have to holistically just think of our territory and respect it enough to treat it with respect.
Ultimately, that issue that you're speaking on was a big issue we would have seen even more so in 2019, 2020, where the Minister of Health would have tried to address that issue where persons, especially in the construction industry, were dumping huge and large materials in those bins that are for more dissolvable items, you know. And ultimately what he did say is that, you know, we try to basically rectify the issue, but, you know, it's all about helping to police yourself.
Yes.
And also, you know, if you see it, report it to the relevant authorities so that something can be done. and we would have seen the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force recently speaking on that initiative where they would have installed some cameras on Virgin Gorda at different hotspots, and the same will be done for Tortola on different hotspots as well. And I'm sure that those cameras are also in place in those strategic areas to catch those perpetrators.
Kamal, on the issue of the Minister of Health and really his plea with Virgin Islanders, I must commend him. Not only has he really rallied for the absolute consolidation and treatment of trash, but he has also rallied holistically and really, I mean, hit the ground running. The Honorable Carvin Malone has really tried his best to eradicate derelict vehicles. And when we look at the environment and we look at how we keep our island, derelict vehicles are a major part of that. So while we're looking at trash, while we're looking at waste management, we have to look at how we just simply dump vehicles that we don't want on the side of the road and how that impacts our territory in a number of ways. But
just before you go on that topic, while he's dealing with those things, the main issue is still the Puckwood Pond issue.
Of
where
course,
the incinerator where persons are still waiting on that scrubber, and also to just reduce the amount of fires that we see on a daily basis that affect those persons mostly in the first district.
But one of the things, Kamal, holistically, when we look at the Puckwood Pond situation, is a part of the fact is simply that residents of the Virgin Islands live and reside in that area. And when we talk about environmentally friendly aspects and contributions to our environment, we have to take them into consideration. What are we doing wrong as a territory that would cause that amount of smoke and inhalation to the territory? I do believe that we need to look at that and perhaps assist and ask for outside help.
Perhaps indeed that may be the solution, but ultimately we have to wait and see what happens. Well, viewers, up next, Premier Fahie congratulates Barbados' Prime Minister for recent election victory. We get to that story when 284 News return.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, Premier Andrew Fahie recently penned a letter to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Barbados, Mia Amor Motley, congratulating her on the resounding clean sweep re-election victory on January 19, 2022. Well, he commended the Prime Minister Motley for her leadership shown throughout the region since her first term in office. In his letter, he wrote, and I quote, "I very much welcome your return as Prime Minister. Your regional and international leadership on climate change and a strong voice on behalf of small island development states have been admirable." End quote. Well, he added, "I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for your country's support with CARICOM regarding the right of the people of the British Virgin Islands to self-governance and self-determination." End quote. Well, Premier Fahie also said that the success of the recent general elections in Barbados continues to build on the democratic values that exist in the territory. Well, he said, and I quote, "With a successful general election continues the strong tradition of democracy in the Republic of Barbados and the wider Caribbean that makes our region a beacon for other parts of the world, especially during these challenging and uncertain times," he expressed. Premier Fahie wished Prime Minister Motley a successful second term in office, stating that Barbados and the BVI would remain engaged on common challenges and opportunities. We're on here, we see basically the Prime Minister of Barbados being commended. That was a 30-0 clean sweep, one of the first persons in Barbados.
Second time in a row.
To actually create history in that, and the second person in the history of the Caribbean to do such. And she was obviously commended by the Premier, because we do know that the Barbados and the British Virgin Islands do have a close relationship.
I think all the regional islands do have somewhat of a relationship.
Yeah, but more specifically Barbados, because over a period of time we would have seen the Premier and Barbados having different meetings at the regional level, and where he would have been praising Mia. This is not the first time he has done such, but ultimately it just goes to show the good good relationship between the two Caribbean nations.
I agree. Viewers, that is all the time we have, but we thank you so much for tuning in. A happy Wednesday to each and every one of you. Of course, tune in to The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. That is airing tonight at 8 p.m. Of course, we're featuring myself. We're featuring Sir Lincoln Ward, really just featuring the best and brightest of Virgin Islands talent. It is always a pleasure. Do have a beautiful rest of the day. I'm Ron Grant.
And viewers, I'm Kamal Hayes, and have a great Thursday evening.
Bye-bye.